Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakratau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhutaguhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatiram Tasmai Sarvavide Namaha. Verse number 12. Apeshat pratibuddhasya jnasya svabhavikam padam uktam netyadi vakyena kalpitasyapanitrana. Jnasya svabhavikam padam svabhavikam padam sarupam jnasya, the knower, the conscious self, such as a sleeping person. What is the swabhavikam, essential nature of an individual, of a conscious being? Aveshat pratibuddhasya uktam. This was taught by the king Ajatashatru to Gargya with the illustration of a sleeping man who could be woken up only when he was repeatedly shaken up. Apeshat pratibuddhasya. So who woke up only when he was repeatedly shaken up. Meaning he was not woken up when he was addressed by his familiar names. So this was in with reference, this was taught to Gargya, who had some conclusion about what is the nature of self. Who is the self? From his contemplation, upasanas, meditations, he arrived at this conclusion or even this experience. The prana, the vital air, is the consciousness, is what enlivens everything. So who is Jna? Who is the Prana is a Jna, the conscious being, or the self-possessing consciousness. Because this is not truth. And Gargya was merely going along accepting this as a truth. Therefore he was missing out something. He was missing out the benefit of knowing the truth as it is. And thus being shown, taught, or knowing, experiencing, being what the potential is. What is the potential? That prana, the vital air, is a potential. That I am prana also has a value, great value, but that it can be exceeded, and therefore is being taught that your experience that you are prana does not represent the very highest achievement. Therefore, you should know what the essential nature of yourself is. And so this experiment was conducted, and he was addressed by his names Bhuvat Pandravasah, Soma, Rajan, which are names of Chandra or moon, who is the presiding deity of prana. Meaning that prana is addressed here. If prana is the conscious being, then prana should respond. And the very peculiarity of this experience of the sleeping person is that breathing is going on, prana are very much awake. So if prana is the self, karta, bhokta, conscious being, then prana should wake up when is addressed by his names. Does not wake up. So this experiment demonstrated that of course the gross body is not the Atma, because gross body is very much there in front of you and does not respond when addressed by the names of Atma. And prana also is not the self, because prana also did not respond. So thus, what Atma is not is established. That sthula shariram, gross body, the karya, the prana, the karana. So karya, karana sanghata, which is normally thought to be Atma, because of habitual identification that karya, karana sanghata is not Atma. Then what is Atma? What it means is that when it said that karya, karana sanghata is not Atma, karya means gross body. That means that your conclusion or your notion that I am the body is wrong. You are not the body. And that I am subtle body, sense organs, mind, that you are not. So Gargya was made to see what he is not. And then this teaching is stopped by this teaching Neti Neti, which amounts to Mahavakya. Naidam, Naidam, not this is called Vipsa. And thus by uttering this Neti twice, everything that the na applies to is all negated. Whatever is objectified, iti, naidam, whatever is them, whatever can become the object of experience, you are not. But this statement does not simply stop at telling you what you are not. But because the fact remains that there is someone who is negating, meaning that there is a limit to the negation because a negator cannot negate the self. And so, whatever is the object part with which the self is identification, no need to say that you are not the table, not the chair. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram itya vidhiyate, that you are not the body. That is because the person thinks I am the body. Thus, whatever you think you are is negated, that you are not that. But the fact remains that you are. So that's why he said that this Netini does not mean Brahman is not there, you are not there. You very much are. And whatever you can objectify, that means give up the identification, whatever you can objectify, and remain as yourself. So this is what is intended for Gargya to realize his essential nature, because it is Swam Prabha. I said earlier, Koshade Vinishkrishta Karyakaranavarjitaha Karya Varjitaha. Because Karya, gross body, Karana, subtle body, are habitually taken to be the self. And it is an identification which is what denies one the knowledge or experience of the true nature of the self. So just as the sword is taken off from a scabbard and shown very clearly, there is no scabbard. Scabbardness is gone completely. Meaning the scabbard that was concealing the sword, there is no more any concealment. The sword now appears in its essential nature. That's all that my idea is. Similarly, the self is as though separated from the kosha or the sheath. But the sheath is the notion arising from identification. Dehoham, pranoham. So, Vinishkrishta, it is shown how you are. It was shown in the context of dream, here shown in the context of deep sleep, etc. But in various ways, the Shruti wants us to see that my present conclusion about myself have no logical justification to be there. You are that which is consistent about you, which is consistent, non-negative, non-changing, avyabhichari. Whereas your notion arising from identification, the gross body, goes when you are not identified with it. There are times you are not identified with the body, prana, sense organs, mind. So this is vivichari, meaning that it is constantly changing and negated. But what you are remains all along, which cannot be negated. So therefore, here the self is as though separated from the non-self. What is non-self? That which can be objectified. What is self? The one that objectified, the sakshi, the witness, the illuminator. So it is done in the context of swapna, done in context of deep sleep. And that's how Akhande Brahmani Paryavastitena Ityartha. This Upadesha, instruction, Neti Neti, has the potential of enabling the aspirant seeing that I am self-effulgent self, I am self-effulgent, self-shining, Swayam Prabha, self-existing, which means Brahman. Now continuing with the verse 13. नेति नेति इत्यादि शास्त्रेण निषिध्यमानस्य. What the Shastra intends to accomplish by the Upadesha Neti Neti is to negate. Negate what? Negate the idea of self, understand? The idea of reality. That's what is negation. That the world of names and forms is not real. That is what is meant by Neti Neti. That you are the body, you are the mind is not the reality about you. That is what is meant by Neti Neti. You must know that. Nishiddhyamanasya means Shruti doesn't mean to say that it does not exist. That the world of names and forms is not Satyam. There is Satyasya Satyam. There is a Satyam or the truth, absolute truth, which appears as relative truth. Oh, there is the absolute self which appears as his relative self because of giving reality to what is not real. So Nishiddhyamanam can be simply understood as that of which the reality is negated. For the world, the reality of names and forms is negated. For the self, the reality of Dehoham, Pranoham is negated. So Deha, Prana are negated, but really speaking, my notion that Dehoham, Pranoham, that is what is meant to be negated. Because it simply Deha is negated. In absence of Deha, I recognize that I am not the Deha. But then when Deha comes back, then what? If consciousness of Deha comes back, if again I start taking myself to a body, then it's not serve the purpose. So even when I take the Deha to be myself, I must be made to see that that is not the reality about me. Deha is not there, means Deha is not the self. Prana is not there, which means Prana is not the self. If that is recognized, it does not matter whether the prana is experienced or not. Not only I am not prana in absence of the awareness of prana. I am not prana even when there is awareness of prana. Awareness of prana is not the problem, that's what Vedanta teaches. Identification with prana or taking prana to be self is a problem. So merely an experience where the prana is negated, the mind is negated, there are no thoughts, there is no anatma is experience, that I am Atma is one thing. But even when you are experiencing the mind, to know your true nature is what Vedanta is seeking to teach. Not just Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yes, of course, then your Swarupa Avasthanam is there. But even when Chitta Vritti is there, Manasantu Kim Maragane Krute, recognize what is mind. What is the reality of what is mind means what is the reality of mind, not what is mind. That mind is thoughts, etc. is a different process. It will be a different way of approaching. What Vedanta means is what is the reality of mind. Inquire into that. Nivamana, so mind does not remain being mind, does not remain as a real entity, as a self. Recognizes not self. So, Nishidyamanasya, what is meant by Nishidyamanam, is negated as the self, of which the reality is negated. The selfness is negated. Kalpitatvam. Why do you say it is not the self? Because kalpitam, it is projected. It is an appearance. Important thing that dehoham is kalpita. That notion, then deha also is kalpita ultimately. But merely recognizing deha as kalpita is not enough. Yes, then you can withdraw your attention from deha and there is no experience of deha. But Vedantin wants that even when you're experiencing deha, there should be recognition that deha I am not. So Vedantin says that experience of deha is not the problem. Dehoham is the problem. Experience of mind is not the problem. The reality given to mind and therefore the identification of mind or mana aham, that's the problem. So Yoga Shastra thinks that mind is the problem. Vedanta says mind is not the problem, the identification of the mind is the problem. So Nishidyamanasya kalpitatvam. Here it is all negated because it is projected anyway, it is an appearance. So recognizing appearance as appearance is negating its reality. Therefore, whatever you are experiencing, whatever is drishyam is kalpitam. Because today drishyam, what is experienced is taken to be real. The world is taken to be real, or the ego that I experience is taken to be real. Kalpitatvam, it's all kalpita. Shrutya ev upavaditam. Shruti herself says very clearly in her own words that whatever you are experiencing is kalpitam. And all your notions about yourself are kalpita. So let us read the verse 13. Maharajadayo lokaha mayyadvat prakalpitaha swapne tadvadvayam vidyar rupam vasanaya saha. The Tika here describes or mentions this passage based on which Shruti passage this verse is based on. Tathata Shruti Natreseta Stupta Bhut Yeshah Vijnanamaya Purusheti Upakramya Setreta Swapnaya Charati Tehasya Lokaha Tat Uta Iva Maharajo Bhavati उत एव महाब्राह्मणः उत एव उच्चावचं निगच्छति इव शब्देन. If you see that vakya उत इव महाराजो भवति उत इव उतेव means उत इव महाराज इव भवति, he becomes as though महाराजा. Uteva Mahabrahmana. That Eva goes with that Maharaja Mahabrahmana. He as though becomes a Mahabrahmana. Uteva as though Uchavacham Nigachati Ucham in the dream. This is a description of dream. As though becomes a Maharaja, becomes a great emperor, Mahabrahmana, becomes a learned Brahmana or wise Brahmana, Uch Avacha, sometimes becomes Devata, sometimes becomes an animal in the dream, even as though. इव शब्देन महाराजत्वादेः स्वप्नदृश्यस्य आभासतां मध्ये निर्दिश्य. I will read that passage. By saying that Maharajatvadeः, this Maharaja, Maharajatva, state of being Maharaja, Mahabrahmana, etc. This is a description of Swapna. Swapna drishyasya avasatam nirdishya iva. By saying as though Maharaja, as though Mahabrahmana, as though Devata, as though animal. So whatever drishya is experienced in Swapna, abhasatam madhye nirdishya, the Shruti shows how all this is abhasa by saying as though in the dream. एवमेव एषः एतत् प्राणान् गृहीत्वा स्वे शरीरे यथा कामं परिवर्तते. The Shruti says how the Maharaja with his retinue goes around in his kingdom and enjoys various places. So the Atma with his retinue, his prana, sense organs, etc. goes around in his kingdom in the dream and experiences various things. Prana Shabdavachya Lingopadim Maharaja Grihitva. So who is this Maharaja, Mahabrahmana, Devata, etc. in dream is nothing but the subtle body. Basically mind becomes all of that. So call it mind or call it subtle body, Lingopadim Maharaja Grihitva. His subtle body that becomes Maharaja, Mahabrahmana, Devata, etc. in the dream. Swapna, that all of these are just appearance or projection becomes very clear. Swapnadruk Vyavaharati, how the Swapnadrashta himself becomes Maharaja and gains all these various experiences in Darshayati. Ataha na swapnopalabdham paramartham. Therefore, what experience in dream is not real. That Maharaja, you find yourself Maharaja. You see yourself as Mahabrahmana. You see yourself as a Devata in the dream. That is not real. It is projected. So here, this is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So 2.1.18, that's what this one says here. There, this passage 218 is introduced with this question or doubt. Nanu swapne vagadi sambandha abhavepi kartattvadi samsara. See, in dream, it is very well known that there is no awareness of gross body, nor is there awareness of organs of perception. That much we know. But kartattvadi samsara sadarsanat. In dream also, kartatva, bhoktrutva is there, samsara of the nature of kartatva, bhoktrutva is there. Therefore, how can you say that Atma is not karta bhokta? But demonstration of dream, you can establish that Atma is not the gross body because there is no awareness of gross body in dream and you are still there. Atma is not the sense organs of perception, sense organs of action, because the awareness or identity is not there, still you are there. It's called Vyatireka. Separation between Atma and Anatma. So dream very clearly shows you are not the body. Even though there is no gross body, you are there. Even though sense organs are not there, you are there. So you are not the gross body, not the sense organs. But in dream also, Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva is there. So how do you say that you are not Karta, you are not Bhokta? Tatravi. So now examining what is the nature of Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva in dream. The Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva that you experience in dream also is not real. That is to be shown now. For Vyatireka, meaning to establish the distinction between Atma and Kartrutva, Atma and Bhoktrutva. That Atma is not Karta, Atma is not Bhokta, is not very obviously evident in the dream. Therefore, the dream has to be properly analyzed to make us understand that the Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva experience in dream also is not your essential nature. That Kartrutva is mithya or in appearance, Bhoktrutva also is mithya. If you analyze the experience of dream, becomes very clear that Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva, etc. experience in dream is unreal. Therefore, Atma is different from Kartrutva, Karta, Bhokta. So now, how did this Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva come? Tatrapi Jagadvasanaya Sattvat. The dream also has an element of waking in that. Asya lokasya, of this great world, this Atma takes a little part with him when he goes to dream. What is that Vasana? So dream also has a little element of waking in there. Tatrapi Jagradvasanaya Sattvat. So this Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva is from Jagrad Vasana. The Vasana that you are carrying with yourself from the waking state. Parikalpitasya cha Swapna Prapanchasya. Therefore the whole Swapna Prapancha is the result of the waking Vasana. Therefore the entire Swapna Prapancha is Parikalpita, is projected. Some people think that there is a real thing going on there. That in dream you really went to Rishikesh and experienced things. Who says dream is parikalpitam? That it is imagined or projected? It's really there. So it established that no, what you're experiencing in dream is not really there. Swapna prapanchasya mithyatvat. The entire Swapna prapancha, the world of Swapna is mithya, is an appearance. No vyatireka. Therefore, whatever in dream also is projected, including Kartru, the Bhoktru. Therefore, you are not Karta Bhokta also. So there this passage said, 218, Sayatra eta swapnaya charati tehasya lokaha tat utaiva maharajaha bhavati utaiva mahabrahmana utaiva uchchavacham nigacchati. Asya lokaha saha yatra swapnaya charati. Yatra yasmin kale, the time when this person experiences dream. Then, te asya lokaha. At that time, these are lokas, means they are karma phalani. So when this one experiences dream, at that time, he experiences the result of the action. Doesn't experience real world. But if he becomes a Maharaja, that's a result of some action, karma phala, or Mahabrahmana, or Devata, or becomes an untouchable. All of these are The lokaha meaning all of these are karma phalani, the results of karma. तत्र स्वप्न काल उत अपि महाराज इव भवति. Imagine that a Maharaja is dreaming that I am Maharaja. Then is that Maharaja in the dream real Maharaja? Because the real Maharaja is sleeping in his bed. Therefore, that Maharaja, when he experiences a Maharaja with his retinue, is now moving about in his kingdom. All these fellows are sleeping. They are not there. And still he experiences. That means all that is nothing but projection. Therefore, uta or iva, as though either becomes Maharaja or becomes Mahabrahman or becomes this, that, and so forth, as though. तथा इव शब्द प्रयोगात विचार दर्शन इव शब्द प्रयोगात Shruti says as though. And secondly also, Vyabhichara, you see a Maharaja here lying on his bed, and then there is a Maharaja there in the dream also. And therefore, the Maharaj is sleeping or Maharaj is walking about. So Maharaja moving about is a projection of the mind. No, Dehat Bahireva Swapnik Padartha Darshanat. Somebody said, that why not Maharaja is actually there and is going about in his kingdom experiencing things. The Yogya Desharya Sambhave, Vedanthin wants to say that the space that is required for moving about the experience that you have in dream is not available. Because supposedly dream is experienced in a very fine nerve, like Hita, where there is no accommodation for anything, let alone Maharaja and his kingdom and his walking about. Therefore, Samvritatvena Hetuna, as the Karikara said, one of the reasons is that one is Drishya, other is Samvritattva. It's a very constricted space where the dream is experienced. There is no accommodation for the elephants and mountains that you see. Yoga Deshat Asambhave is not possible. That space or accommodation is not available in where actual dream is taking place. Sayatha Maharaja Sarvabhaumah Dehasthaiva San Parinke Shayana Upasamrutakarana Swapnan Pashyan. That Maharaja is lying in his bed with all his organs of perception, action, all of these are withdrawn. Means he can't walk. You understand? Upasamrutakarana means that he can't see, he can't hear, he can't walk, he can't talk. Whereas in dream he finds himself walking and talking and etc. Where sense organs are not there. That means sense organs in dream are all projected. And everything is projected. Pariyankesha, Upasamrutakarana, Swapnan Pashyan, then Janapadan, Janapade Deshe, Sanjatan, Vasana Kalpitan, these all kinds of things he sees in his own kingdom. Yatha Kamam Parivarteta, Parivartate, how he moves about as he wants in dream. And he instructs, he walks and talks and enjoys, where he doesn't have any means of doing that. Doesn't have organs of perception to enjoy, doesn't have organs of action to talk, etc., walk, and he's still doing it. That means all of this is imagined. Because the Maharaj is lying in his bed. That is how, that Shruti shows how the whole dream experience is a projection. Therefore, Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva experience also is the projection. It is not the reality about the self. यथा कामं यथेच्छं परिवर्तते जागृत कालवत् उपगत प्रकृतिं तदवच्छिन्नां भोगान् भुञ्जानमिव. As in waking state, he goes around with his retinue and enjoys things. Similarly, he enjoys in the dream state, for which there is no accommodation, they don't exist. Therefore, the whole experience is nothing but a projection. Similarly, this Atma also, एतत् प्राणान् वागादीन् जागृति स्थानेभ्यः गृहीत्वा संहृत्य स्वे शरीरे स्वे देहे एव यथा कामं परिवर्तते. Don't think that you go out to experience the dream world. Just as that Maharaja does not go out of his body to experience his kingdom, so also Atma does not go out of his body to. So whatever you are experiencing is all within your body. You think that you are in Rishikesh and you are in Canada, wherever, that is what is not the case. And therefore, the whole dream experience is a projection. So, therefore, kartrutva, bhoktrutva, whatever is in dream also is nothing but a projection, not the self. So, this was the idea there. So, the Tika says, Swapne, Swapnavasthayam, Maharajadev loko yadvadmai dhrugatmani kalpitaha. Just as Swapnavastha, in the dream state, Maharaja, you may even experience yourself as a Maharaja. So Shruti clearly showed how all of that is just projection. Mai kalpitaha. Tadvadeva. Tadvadvayam. What is dvayam? The two. Murta, murtam, etc. So dvayam, tadvadeva vasaya, lingashritaya sa, dvayam murtam chaiva, amurtam cha, mai kalpitam vidyat. Now that is stretched to the waking state. Having established the fact that dream is a kalpana, that what you experience is not really there. Similarly also is waking. You think there is a world out there. You think there is a world out there made of murta, amurta, tangible, intangible, formed, unformed, effect, cause, cross, subtle, etc. But it is very similar, the whole setup is very similar to dream. Because in dream also, without having to go out of a body, how you experience the whole world within your body where there was no room at all, so it was all projected. A similar setup exists in the waking also. What's the difference? Same drashta, drushya, all that setup exists here also. Therefore, here also, what you think is outside you is all projected as in the dream. Vasanaya, lingasitaya sa, dvayam rupam, kalpitam vidyat. So just as all the objects in the dream, along with their cause, vasanas, along with the mind where the vasanas are there, all of that was projected. So also, the waking state, all these dvayam, murta, amurta, which means nam rupatmakam jagat, and the vasanas from which it all arises, in the subtle body where the vasanas are located, recognize that all of this is mithya as in the dream. The waking is, the setup is technically no different from the dream setup. There may be some details may be different, but otherwise, basically the setup of grahya, grahaka, etc. is the same. So टीका से अतः न स्वप्नोपलब्धम परमार्थम इत्यर्थः. Therefore, whatever upalabdham, whatever experience in dream is not paramartham, is not real. तथा च वासनाश्रय लिंग शरीर सहितस्य मूर्तामूर्त रूप स्थूलस्यापि दृगात्मनि कल्पितत्वम. So like dream also is a waking. Vasanasha linga sharira sahitasya. So when you say that the objects, the tangible object that you experience are projected, they are projections based on vasana, so they are also unreal. The subtle body where the vasanas are located also equally unreal. Vasana ashraya, linga sharira. Linga sharira or the mind which is ashraya, the locus of these vasanas. Because same mind was there in waking. And that mind comes to a dream along with the vasana. Along with that, murta rupa sthulasyapi. So linga sharira is subtle body, murta amurta, the tangible, intangible, which are five elements, which is all gross, sthula. So the gross world as well as the whole subtle world. Drugatmani kalpitattvam, just as the whole gross world in the dream and whole subtle world in the dream were all projected upon the dreamer. So also the whole gross waking world, whole subtle waking world, they're all projected upon the Drugatmani, upon the perceiver, upon the witness, upon the self. Tadrishyatvat upannam eva. Tadrishyatvat. Drugatma drishyatvat. Because the gross and subtle in the waking also are drishya. By the drashta. So drishya is kalpitam upon drashta. That's what dream experience teaches us. In dream, the world that is experienced is all projected upon the dreamer, the experiencer. So the whole waking world is projected upon the experience of waking. So Drugatmani kalpitam. Drugatma. Drug means seer. Drugatma, the seer, the witness. Upon him, the world is drishyam. Instead, drishyam is Drugatmani kalpitam. Whatever is perceived is projected upon the perceiver. Upannam, that we arrive at by reasoning. See, dream is experience, where it is very clear that the whole dream world, the gross and subtle dream world also, gross and subtle, both aspects are there. The gross and subtle dream world is projected upon the dreamer. This is what we experience. By analyzing dream, it becomes very clear to us. Therefore, now the same reasoning has to be extended to the waking stage. In waking, you don't experience you arrive at the unreality or mithyatma. And therefore, you can negate it. And therefore, upannam eva iti, therefore, in the waking also, whatever you are experiencing, the gross and the subtle world are also kalpita, projected upon the witness. Is upannam is tenable, is in keeping with the reason, where the reason is derived from the experience of dream. Meaning that in the dream, it is established that the whole dream world, the gross and subtle, is projected upon dreamer. This was established by describing the Maharaja, etc. Very clear that in dream you are experiencing that is not there. For there is no room there. And then not only that, Maharaja is there. I mean, there's one Maharaja sleeping here, one Maharaja moving about, in the dream. Therefore, all of that is not really there, is very clear in a dream. So, therefore, dream provides us the basis for reasoning. That wherever there is drishyam, so yatra yatra drishyam tad drugatmani kalpitam. From dream we arrive at this rule. Tad drishyam drugatmani kalpitam. Drishyam, what is experienced, is projected upon the experiencer. The object is projection of on the subject. There is no object. There is no subject also ultimately. Even the dreamer is there as long as the dream world is there. So druk or the seer is there as long as the seen is there. When that is not there, even the seer also is not there. And therefore the whole waking world, murta, amurta, gross and subtle, all of this is projected, becomes very clear to us from the dream experience. The idea is that you keep on dwelling upon the dream and recognize that is mithya. However wonderful it appears to be. Oh, Maharaja cannot mithya. You can't say Maharaja is mithya. You can't say Himalaya is mithya. You can't say Devatas are mithya. But in the dream you had the same experiences. When you thought they were all real. But then when you woke up, you didn't have any of those things. So that is how the dream experience, when deliberated upon, enables us to have a conviction that whatever is experienced in dream is mithya, however great it is or however miserable it is. Uchchavacham. If that becomes clear, then we extend that reasoning to waking. That what is the basic difference between the waking setup and the dream setup? The setup in waking is not substantially different from the setup in dream. Although samvrutatvena hetu, that hetu is not there. Meaning that the dream is established mithya because there is the samvrutattva, meaning that the space is very, very narrow. And also drishyam, the whole dream is experienced within me, and I thought in dream that it was outside of me. And further, how there is vichara of why that I was sleeping in the bed and I saw myself in Rishikesh, etc. So with all of this, the dream is a projection. And therefore, wherever similar setup is found, the drishya and drit also is the projection. That's a big step, but that is what Vedanta wants us to recognize. That all that is required to establish mithyatvam is drishyatvam. So whatever is drishya, whatever is experienced, whatever is perceived and experienced is mithya. However it is, how great it is or how miserable it is. Both these things actually distract us. We get influenced or, controlled, impressed by what is great, and that can't be mithya. And miserable, how can you say this is suffering? So miserable also can't be mithya. They have a strong impression upon us. So uchchavacham. This is not to become insensitive. That's not the point. The point is to become objective. Vedanta doesn't want to teach us insensitivity. It wants to teach us objectivity. That means that an objective person can be a very sensitive person and still recognizes what is mithya is mithya. Because this was not understood, many people dismiss Vedanta as insensitive. There is no feeling, no bhakti. No, no. This is after all of that. Having passed through all those stages, you ultimately come to this. Because unless you had that, you cannot drop things. An insensitive person cannot separate himself also. Anyway, so this is how from the dream also, this neti neti, the dream experience shows that what is drishyam is anatma or mithya or kalpitam. That's what is meant by neti neti. The gross and subtle is all kalpitam. So here the Tikaka said that look, without having to dwell upon whether the kartrutva, bhoktrutva, the duality is real, non-duality is real, and accepting both as real, etc. But here Shruti says all duality is unreal, is all projected. So you don't have to strain your mind in trying to justify that no, the duality also is real, non-duality also is real. It's not necessary. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.